First things first, we will go into the Zeus training channel here that we are currently in. Click on that first link there, and you will um, get the 104th Zeus rules, right? So these are the different ranks, right? So you've got me and Turk, and then Zeus trainers, Senior Zeus, and Zeus qualified. So the bottom two probably be the two that you're really looking at. Zeus qualified is what you'd be at the end of the training, and then there's kind of some additional things that can happen for you after that. You can get what we call sit-ins here, and then get promoted to Senior Zeus that way. Basically, how that works is you find a Senior Zeus, you ask them, hey, can you sit in with me on the SOP and get me credit? They're going to be watching you Zeusing, things of that nature, helping you out a little bit, especially with your first two, and it'll go from there. And the third one, you have to be with a Zeus trainer or higher, so that's me, Turk, or Spartan. Um, and then we're just watching the whole time. You're doing all the Zeusing. We're just seeing, how you do, and if we think your Zeusing is up to par, then we'll promote you after that, right? So there's that. You can also see kind of some perks that you get when you get to Senior Zeus. You have to be RTO qualified to get Senior Zeus, and then there's some other stuff, campaigns. You can sit in other people, that kind of stuff, right? So any questions about that before we move on? Perfect. All right, so Zeus rules. I'm not going to read all these to you because surely you can read, but you are responsible for every rule on the list. We'll kind of roll through and hit quite a few of them, mainly the highlight ones, and go from there, right? So obviously, the first three are all about your personality while you're Zeusing. Uh, your op that people roll into might be the first time they ever have an impression of the unit. Might be the first thing they've done with the unit. It's important that your op obviously isn't a piece of crap, and that you're behaving admirably in that situation as quote unquote the runner of the op, right? So some things to think about there. Be respectful, professional, things of that nature. And then make sure you have a plan. You're not flying by the seat of your pants, which I do sometimes, but it's not recommended. And your op is pretty organized, right? So you got to be on the long range. Again, we encourage you to get the RTO qual if you don't already have it. Um, if you can't just sit and spawn the whole time, most of the time, the AO that you're working in is going to be out too far for you to just sit in the spawn. So you'll have to teleport out there close to the AO, especially if you're running like the RTO mini backpack. The range is shorter on that, so there you go. 6. You're basically responsible for mission constraints, but you're not like you guys have to do this, like in this order, and come exactly down this road and all that stuff, right? They're gonna make their own plan. You kind of just provide the objectives, right? So make sure you're not really like telling them what to do in the mission. You're more of an overarching theme kind of guy, right? And then you'll have access to the Zeus review form, so you'll see complaints and stuff in there. They're all pseudo anonymous, as in you can't get to the names, um, but I can. That way, if I need to go ask someone questions, we can do it that way. But I'll show you that when you get the tag. We'll walk through that real quick. Unless your life is coming to an end, don't leave a mission early or unfinished. Wrap it up real quick and then dip. There's some nice stuff about minefields, suicide bombers, and mortars. If you want people to really hate you and hate your op and probably never come back to another op that uses Zeus, just go ahead and drop mortars on people all the time. That'd be fantastic. Be a real good way for you to have 2 or 3 people show up all the time. IEDs are fine. They don't not considered a minefield unless you've got 4 of them within a 25 meter square, right? So if you want to put some IEDs down in towns and things of that nature, that's okay. But once it gets a bunch of them close together, it needs to be marked because that's now a minefield. So there's that. There's some stuff about debrief. We've all been to a debrief. The only real thing I'll say about debriefs is if it's a fun op, you're running the debrief. If it's a platoon op, the platoon lead's running the debrief, and you're just like, you might as well be a detachment. They'll call upon you at the end and kind of go from there, right? So just make sure that you kind of square that away in your head. And there's some nice stuff about, like, if multiple people want to Zeus another op at the end, it's going to go to the highest ranking Zeus, blah, blah, blah. If other units are there, it's kind of your responsibility to make sure they're following the rules. You're the guy who can see everything that everybody's doing. So that's kind of important there. And then there's some nice miscellaneous rules down here. Um, you know, about Zeus lightning people, spawning units close to people, specialized units, things of that nature, right? So you just want to make sure all that's squared away. We'll get you a mod that has an FPS counter on it. You want to keep everyone's frames up at least above 20. Some people have poo-poo computers, and they go down lower than that. But I would say when people start dropping below the 30s, that should be cause for concern if that's the general population, right? Most of our guys have computers well enough they can run in the 30s or higher for most of the op, right? So there's that. And then it starts talking about special forces down there at the bottom, which would be important because we're bringing those back hopefully today. So Magna Guards, IG-88s, Spec Op droids, those kind of things. Yeah, there you go. Any questions about those rules? Perfect. All right, so we'll move on to that next doc. You can go ahead and open that up. This will kind of be the rules and procedures doc that is hyperlinked at the very beginning there. If you ever need to check that again. This is going to kind of be, basically how the training ends up working. The part that I'll direct you to and you need to make sure that you take care of before we're done is the bottom two there in section 4. You need to make sure that you have those two mods loaded on. ZEC just gives you some extra like FOBs and stuff to use, and then Zeus Client is Zeus Client FPS obviously lets you see FPS, and you can toggle that on and off with user action 12. So, but we'll get to that eventually. You can close that down. I just wanted you to be aware where that was located, so you'll have that for your use at a later date. But yeah, let's get on into it. Glizzy, where you at, homie?
Yo, I'm trapping here, young blood.
I don't see you.
What you mean, bro? What, like spawn in?
Yeah, you're not on the server.
Uh,
Yeah,
I'm,
spawn in,
I'm
brother.
here, bro. I didn't spawn in. I just had it selected. I didn't know if you wanted me to move out of it or not.
Yeah, we're in. Are you two already in a Zeus slot, Yanni and Brill?
No, there's only a few Zeus slots, so you
Okay.
have to
Glizzy,
grant me.
take that other Zeus slot, will you? And I'm gonna
Ah,
curate Brill.
Yes. Yes, I can feel the power.
All right. So when you Zeus, you gotta make sure you get a long range backpack on, right? We'll have a Zeus uniform again soon, so we'll make sure that gets out to you. And you square that away. It's just the gray clone officer uniform, and then you just put an LR backpack on the end of it. You pretty much have to Zeus in that unless you're an NCO, then you can Zeus in your gear. So something to think about there. And we will start from the beginning, right? So the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to rebind your Zeus key. So I hit escape, I go to configure, I go to add-on options, question mark? Yeah.
No.
Add-on options, no. That's Ace Zeus. We don't want that crap.
There's a whole thing
So,
under
yeah,
Zeus.
it's controls. So controls, and then you can hit that drop down arrow or under keyboard, and then you can go all the way down to where it says Zeus. And then you'll have a Zeus key. Some of them are bound to Y. You don't want that. That's your alternative frequency. And that's why some people ping um, Zeus all the time, which is not what we want, right? So move that to something you're not going to press very often so you don't ping the Zeuses. Because if you're not in a Zeus slot, when you hit that, you just get a nice fat ping. So mine is pause on my keyboard because I'm not using that for anything. And then you'll see some other stuff. I recommend leaving that where it is right now because we're going to talk about some of that here in a second. I will tell you that when you hear yourself get pinged, you can press the space bar and it'll automatically take you to that ping. That's probably pretty important. That'll get you to whoever's hopefully talking to you and go on from there. Anyway, after you do that, you press OK, get back out of there. Now you're going to go press that key, right? Whatever key you just made that into. And now the Zeus interface should be popping up for you, right? You should be able to get right above us from a bird's eye view and have some options of things show up on the right side of your screen.
Yep.
Okay, the first thing we're going to do is talk about moving through the map. So if you press M, you can easily click with your middle mouse button and it moves that little black camera looking thing all over. We're going to work in the airfield area just to our north, so you can move your black camera there with your middle mouse button, and then when you press M again, you'll get out of that view and you'll be at the airfield. So that's the quick way to move around the map. And so obviously, this is the other half of Chernarus 2035, so there's no actual buildings over here. I just want you to feel like there are. So you're going to pick some part in this airfield, and you are going to start with a map marker. So you're going to go to, in the top right-hand corner, there's a thing that says markers. It's the fourth one on the list. Looks like an objective marker. You're going to put an objective marker down with your name. So whatever color you want with your name, and smash it on the airfield there. So just spread out. Make sure it's an objective marker, not a question mark, whoever that is. Put that down with your name. I'm right in the middle of the airfield, so you can reference my stuff at any time if you need to, or we can kind of go from there. But yeah, we shall proceed on from here. Hopefully Brill stays away from me. Get away from me, Brill, stinky. All right. So the very first thing we're going to do is we are going to spawn a, let's spawn our saber tank. So you're going to go into units, blue 4, 104th Ace Company, and then you got the 104th Ace hover tank. And so when you put that thing down, you should see a hover tank. It should be blue. That'll tell you that it's crewed. If you want it uncrewed, when you go to spawn in that bottom right hand corner, you can press that button that says include crew, and if you click that, then it will come without crew in it already. So that's something to think about. But anyway, we should have a crewed saber tank right now. That's what we're looking at. So a couple things with this, right? I can click on the saber tank, I can hold shift, and that allows me to turn that object. So I can turn that thing around to different directions. I just hold shift and I drag whatever direction I want it to face. If I want it to go, to the left, I drag to the left. I drag, facing me if I want it to face me. Things of that nature, right? There's some other things I can do. I can press Alt, and I can drag it up. So this is good if you're trying to put droids on like a second floor or something. If you drag it high enough, it will deploy a parachute. So, if you ever want to drop tanks in or something like that because Valkyrie's not available, then you can drag it, up there and let her parachute down. Obviously, it'd be affected by wind, so you might take that into consideration if you are parachuting stuff in. So that is Alt. So from there, you're going to click back on your saber tank. You're going to press the G button. The G button is the quick button for dismount, and so you can see all my guys are now dismounted. There's a couple ways I can get them back in. I can click on the blue square on top of those guys, which will highlight all of them, and then I can just drag them back onto the saber tank icon, and they automatically just go and get back in. Or press G again. I can click on that blue square again to highlight all of them, and I can just right-click the saber tank icon, and they'll all actually run to the saber tank and get in. So that's what I'd recommend if you've got like HMPs on a runway and you have droids close by, or an armor depot, you can have the droids actually run into them. So there is that. If we want this thing to explode, we can mash the end button on it. So highlight your saber tank, press end, and you'll see the crew automatically dismounts and your saber tank is blown up. Let's say everyone's way far away from this area by now, so I'm going to take my burning wreckage of a saber tank, click on it again, and press delete. That makes it go away. So now my saber tank is gone. Hopefully, if you did it right, you've got your 3 clones still. If not, you can spawn another saber tank and dismount that saber tank and keep your 3 clones. We want those guys. We're fixing to work with them for a second. Okay, so now we got 3 clones. If you double click onto the top of those clones there, you can see, kind of how they're feeling. You can see what formation they're in, and things of that nature, and you can change all those. Like my guys are laying down right now. I want them to stand up, so I'll press stand. They are in combat effect right now. I don't want that. I want them to lower their weapons so they feel safe, and I want my guys to be in a wedge. Why not? So I'm going to press all those buttons and then press OK, and then my guys will stand up. They should go get into a wedge, or they're going to walk in a straight line together. Okay, there you go. They should, form into a wedge, which they did. And my guys are in rebellion because they think the wedge apparently means that I want them in a column. So that's great. But for the most part, that generally works. But my guys apparently not. And so again, safe has them put their weapons down. That combat mode setting there, you can decide how you want them to work. If you don't want them to fire at all, you can put them on hold fire. If you only want them to defend themselves, which means they'll fire when someone fires at them, you can put it on that, et cetera, right? I want those guys to crouch. I can tell them to crouch, all those things. I want them to sprint because they're just walking. I can make them sprint. I can turn the skill up of just this group here at the top. I can rename them if I really want to. All good things there. If you click the actual skill button, you can change this stuff here. Let's say this is a group of Republic commandos and you want them to actually, be good. You can, turn all the sliders up or whatever. Things of that nature. It just generally makes them significantly better, right? So there is that. Real quick, we're going to work on some things with a fire team of guys. So we got these dudes again. We highlight all of them by clicking that square, and then I'm going to hold Control and drag away. Click on one of the guys and drag away. I should now get like 3 little lines heading off to whatever side I dragged on. Once I let that go, now you'll see that they split into 3 groups. So there should be 3 squares now. So again, I highlighted all of them. I held Control and I dragged away to get them into 3 separate groups. Okay, sometimes AI pathing is really stupid in Arma and they won't go where you want them to go. If that's the case, you can always ungroup them, and now they're just moving independent. They're moving on their own. They're not trying to wait on the rest of the team. So that's always a decent idea. So I had a group I was trying to get over the hill earlier in the ops day. I couldn't get them to go over the hill, so I ungrouped them and just right-clicked them all, and they all went right over the hill. It's perfect. All right, so I can also put them back in if it's different squads that are all fragmented, but now I want them to link back up with one another. I can highlight those guys again. I can hold Control, drag from one of the guys to another, and they'll all go back into the same group. So now I have one blue triangle. So just pretty much the actual opposite of what we just did. All right, so now we can talk about, let's talk about movement and patrols, right? So when I highlight all these guys and I right-click, or I can just click on the leader because they're in a squad as far as movement goes. I right-click, that makes them move. You see they start to go that way. Okay, and so I want them to move to a couple different places, right? So I make my one waypoint, and then I hold Control, and you'll see my little icon gets a plus in the middle of it, and so I go ahead and click, and now I've created multiple waypoint. So I've just made mine into a square here. I've got multiple waypoints in a square. If I want them to repeat that cycle, let's say they're on patrol or something of that nature, I can continue to hold control and then hold the alt button. So it's control alt right click. I get the recycle looking bar in the middle of my icon, and I can press that, and that'll cause them to recycle through those move commands. And so now I've created, patrol with my guys. I can go back to them. Let's say, I want it to look more like a patrol. My guys are jogging right now because their speed's on normal. I'm going to put their speed on limited. And now they're walking. I've got them on safe. So their gun's low. They're walking. And I put them in a line. So, or a column, excuse me. And so now they're, one by one marching around in a nice formation. If you want them sprinting around in a wedge, you can do that. Whatever you want that to be, right? So if you have any questions about that, or if you didn't understand what I said, ask your questions so I can help you out there, right?
Alright, so to put them in the cycle, you set a waypoint for them, and you change one of the waypoints to cycle.
To put them in a cycle, I'm going to control right click my full cycle that I want. So let's say it's 5 waypoints. I'll click all 5 of those, and on the last one, instead of holding just control, I'll hold control and alt, and then right click. And I'll get the recycle. You should get the recycle icon.
Gotcha.
And then they'll recycle through all those moves again. And wherever you put that recycle icon down, that's going to count as a waypoint. So you got to keep that into mind too. And then you'll see after they make the complete cycle, once they get to the recycle icon, all the waypoints they just visited reappear, and they go and repeat the process.
Nice.
Really good for patrols. If you're trying to get a vehicle to move down the road, so it doesn't, go. If you just click from one place to another on a vehicle, sometimes they'll decide they want to go off-roading and things. But if you click multiple times on the road, that helps them stay on the road, especially around like corners and stuff. You want them to be able to go. They generally try to go straight to the next point, so you got to kind of help them out around like sharp corners of the road and things. So there's a little tidbit there, right? All right, so we got our guys floating around. Cool. Pretty simple there, right? If I want, let's say I wanted to change the weapon layout of this guy in the back, I could go to modules, which is in the top right-hand corner. The third one, the one with the little blocks, modules. I could go to Zeus, and I could press the arsenal button on that guy, the last guy in the back, and I'm just going to give him, what I want to give him. I'm going to give him an A3S Westar because it doesn't work right now, so why not? Alright, and then I can hit close, or I can save that if I want. Go to loadouts and hit save. That way if I'm using it for a campaign or something like that, I can always have this guy. And so now, that last guy is now holding a different weapon. And, my guy's pulled out his pistol because he knows that the A3S Westar doesn't work right now. So, smart AI. But anyway, if I wanted that exact guy again, I can what we call hard copy and paste. So if I wanted to copy and paste this group, I could click on them. I could hit Control Copy, Control C, and then Control V, and those guys will show back up. They're even going to show back up in the same waypoint, with the same patrol route and all that stuff again. Their settings on their squad won't be the same. So if you change their skill or you change the speed or what kind of formation they were in, that'll all be different. So you have to reset that. But I have all those guys again. But if I want that guy to show back up with the Westar, you notice that whatever weapon you changed your last guy to, when you just hit Control C, Control V, he goes back to his default weapon that you originally spawned him in with. If I want that, let's say I outfitted this whole squad of guys with different weapons that I wanted them to have, If I want them to spawn with those weapons again, I've got to Control-Shift copy and then Control-Shift paste. And so now my back guy is carrying the Westar yet again. Because that's a hard copy and paste. Let's say you changed the uniform of those guys, or you made a special military faction, or whatever for your op, right? That's the way you can not have to go into every single character and change all of their stuff, right? So, any questions about that? Beautiful. All right, so we're going to take those guys and we are going to delete them. One last thing that we're going to do before we move on, we're going to go back into units. We're going to go to Blue 4, and we are going to go down to the LATs that we are currently using, which is under LS Grand Army of the Republic, helicopters, LAT, gunship, pylons, right? So there you go. Again, that is units, Blue 4, LS Grand Army of the Republic, helicopters, LAT, gunship, pylons. Okay, so now I have our LAT out here in front of us. Okay, the last button that I didn't show you with the saber tank, if you click on the LAT and then you press C on after you have it highlighted. I clicked on the LAT and my game has decided it's going to kill itself.
It did flares.
Yes, that's what it should do. But instead, my game is trying to commit the suicide.
Typical.
Oh, it did flares finally. Okay, so I am what we call frozen in Zeus. So one of you get out of Zeus and kill me.
Oh, I got you.
Okay.
Where are you at?
Thank you for that. Brill now has a -1 score.
Yay.
All right, and that happens from time to time, sadly, as much as we don't want it to. It still does. So
I have a question.
yes,
Couldn't have you selected yourself under blue 4, double-clicked yourself, and set your health and armor to 0?
I could have, but I was literally frozen in Zeus and couldn't do anything.
Ah, okay.
So yes, that's the case most of the time where you can do that, but it was not the case for me in that that category. So if you don't have a Zeus, then you just crap out of luck. You have to. Sometimes you can get the escape abort to come up, or the escape respawn, but a lot of times that's not the case, and then you just have to dip yourself out. So anyway, there is the LAT. If I want that thing to any air vehicle, if I want that thing to just immediately start flying, I just highlight it, press Alt, drag it up in the air, and then it's already going, right? That's really important for vulture droids. It starts up at the speed that it needs to start up at to start flying. So you'll notice if we went to a vulture droid, for example, I'm going to get the LATs out of here so they don't freak out. But let's go to, go ahead and delete your LAT, go to Units, Op4, go to Confederacy of Independent Systems, and then Planes. That is Units, Op4, Confederacy of Independent Systems, and Planes. Put a vulture droid down and then just have it take off normal, and you'll see that it does all the nice little liftoff things where it'll fold its wings back out, and then you can take a vulture droid and just drag it up in the air. It automatically takes those wings and folds them out. So you can see how it can be a lot faster. If I'm not wanting the immersion of something lifting off from the airfield, I'm just going to alt and drag those things straight up into the sky. Because it does also take them a minute to get going. I digress with that. You can go ahead and delete those. If you go to the map, especially if they're like running amok and you don't know where they are, if you go straight to the map, you can easily delete. Looks like Brill parachuted his guy out of there. So nice. All right. So there's that. We'll just kind of quickly walk you through units, right? Anything with a K in front of it is the Cobra mod. Anything with LS in front of it is obviously the LS mod. The stuff that says Grand Army of the Republic, that is all the A3S equipment. Swap will be back on the server, the new server today. So that'll be around as well. So there's a lot of options here, and on Blue 4, all of them work as far as like you can spawn them and they won't, destroy the server. So that's fine. All of the Grand Army of the Republic vehicles and stuff do not work. Apparently, the speeders are kind of funky right now, where if you're the person who spawns them, you can get in them, but if you're not the person who spawns it, you can't get in it. So that's kind of strange. Um, I'm sure there's a fix for that, and we'll get it figured out. But currently, that is the case. Let's see what else. The tanks, the AP does not work right now, so that wouldn't be one that I would give people to use. It is broken. But all the other vehicles underneath tanks work pretty well, and then all the turrets work on the Blue Force side as well. So there's nothing really to be concerned with there. The particle cannon, where it says turrets under Grand Army of the Republic turrets, particle cannon, that one is a anti-air weapon, I believe. So just kind of putting that into perspective for you, right? So you'll want to get in and kind of mess around with this stuff here, and kind of see where everything is located, right? And go from there, right? If you want NATO guys or like police officer looking dudes, you can go to the Grenadier Marine guys. Yeah, maybe Yanni, but I think it's gonna lock you out because you disconnected from the because you disconnected from the server. So it's not technically you that spawned those things anymore. If you want to take control of something, so like Brill's got some turrets down, if I wanted to take control of one of those guys, I would press control left click and I could get in them, right? Once I do that, I'm not going to be able to hear anybody or anything like that. You can get radio messages still, though. So that is an option if you want to remote control a droid or something like that. As long as you're not making the out feel super PvP-ish, probably won't be a problem. We're fixing to put VCOM on the server, so the droids are going to get more intelligent anyway. I don't think we'll have to remote control as much to get stuff done, but I digress. That's all Blue 4. And then if you want groups of those kind of guys, you can go to the groups deal. You get the same kind of stuff. Yes, Blue 4. Guy.
What's the difference between Alt left click and Control right left click when you're controlling units?
I never alt left clicked something. Are you talking out of that unit now? That might be the case.
Oh, maybe.
There are two ways to control a unit. There is control left click, and then possibly alt left click is a shortcut for the module control. Are you in it right now? Did you just press alt left click, bro?
Yes, I'm in it right now.
Okay. So that's just a shortcut for the module, which you can actually speak out of that guy and hear what he hears now. But sometimes if you die in that unit like that, you're now like op 4, and so you would need an op 4 respawn. So you just need to make sure that if you're gonna do that, you place down an op 4 respawn first, and I'll show you what that's about anyway in a minute. So if we go to units op 4, again, K is Cobra, all of that works. L is LS, all of that works. CIS, battle droids, drones, turrets, that is all JLTS stuff right now, and they work-ish. They work-ish. The
Yeah,
CIS,
I just placed this prowler down and I cannot delete it.
yeah. The CIS V3 low poly, I believe, is A3 or A3S mod, I believe. So those, none of them have working weapons right now, so you can't use them. And then Confederacy of Independent Systems is A3S. That's where the Vulture droid was. That's where the AATs and the MTTs that we're going to use are. and then the turrets are there as well. The proton cannon causes some server issues, so if you have a lot of people in your op, I would say like over 15, I would not use that. If it's a smaller, person op, 15 or less, 10 people maybe even, then you could probably get away with using it. It's just not very well optimized at the moment. And then you got CSAT and all that other stuff on the way down. From that, then you can go to independent, and that's where you'll find your Mandalorians, your looters, your syndicate guys. When we add swap back here in an hour or so, there'll be some like different alien factions in here, like the Greedo people show up in here, the Tusken Raiders show up in here, Trandoshans, Weeways, lots of cool stuff over here. So that'll be a nice addition of things to fight. And then civilian, and then empty is where you can find pretty much all the objects. Wrecks are in empty as well. Once we add swap back again, there's some nice stuff that shows up in here. There's static props in here. There's op tray crap in here because we have an op tray mod on. Although the op tray stuff is a little buggy, so I would not advise using that. But anyway, there's a ton of crap underneath empty that you should probably go through at some point. Anyway, so that is units and groups essentially. We're going to go through modules real quick, and then we'll be pretty much done. So just kind of roll through the modules, deal with me, kind of pay attention so you can see where it all is. Again, that's in the top right-hand corner. The 3 little cubes says modules. Ace AI is, talking about the AI. The only ones I really use in here are global AI skill. If I want to raise or lower that, let's say it's a seer or stealth op, I'll press the global AI skill thing down and turn their spotting down. Let's say it's a soft op, I might crank the skill up a little bit. I generally crank the skill up, 10 to 15% for platoon ops just to make it a little more difficult because there's more people on the server. Probably won't be doing that now that we've brought VCOM onto the server because they'll be smart enough without having to do that. If it's a night op, one of the things you can really do to help boost the droids is toggle MVGs because they, will actually use night vision and they won't be walking around with their flashlights on all the time. So that is actually a pretty solid thing to do. And then the rest of that stuff we have somewhere else. Another module where we can use that's better than this stuff. So those are kind of the only ones I use in there. Ace Arsenal is exactly what it is. It makes an Ace Arsenal. So if someone needs an Ace Arsenal, they come on over from another unit, and we're on an old map file that doesn't already have an Ace Arsenal built in. You can create that for them on any object. Ace Captive is how you take someone captive if you want a bunch of captive people, or you can surrender them like that. Ace Medical, Assign Medic is how you give someone med perms. Heal is how you heal someone. And then Toggle Unconscious doesn't really work anymore with the new Ace system. It used to, that would actually toggle people unconscious. Now, if they don't have a heart rate, which is generally the case, it will not toggle them. So you're pretty much out of luck. Ace Repair is a lot of engineer stuff. That's how you give someone engineer perms as well. Ace Utility, I don't use anything in here. The only things that we would use that are in here are in another module and work better there. Configure pylons might be decent if you're a pilot, I guess. AI behavior is really nice. We got ambient animations. We'll jack with that for a second. So just go to units blue 4 and spawn any blue 4 unit, whatever you want. I'm going to grab a wolf pack captain. Why not? Okay, so I have my Wolfpack Captain. I go back to modules. I go to ambient animations, and then I can put that on him. And then, I can make him, do some things, right? So I've got him shielding himself from the sun. You can say combat ready. We'll keep their gun out. Combat, if they're not combat ready, they're not going to engage. Like, they'll be stuck in this animation, even if they start to take combat. If you say combat ready true, then if they start to take combat, they'll break out of this animation and actually start fighting. So that's a couple of little pieces of information there. So there's some nice little pieces here. You can kind of play with those at a later date, I would say. Okay, we're gonna take, or no, we're not. We're gonna go across the river here for the rest of this AI behavior stuff. So let's head to the nuclear power plant on the, what is that? That's the northwestern corner of the map. So just head there. Find you a little place inside the power plant, and you're going to go to groups. You're going to go to blue 4. Bad, Brill, bad. We're going to move on without Brill. You're going to go to groups, blue 4, LS, infantry phase 2, and spawn any of those things under infantry phase 2. Somewhere in the town, anywhere you want.
Up over here.
Again, we're in the nuclear power plant on the northwest corner of the map. You are spawning in groups. Blue 4, anything under LS Grand Army of the Republic. Preferably just infantry of at least, 3 or more. Okay, so once you have that down, you're going to go back to modules. You're going to go the one that says, is that you, bro? Pinging me?
Yes.
Bad, bro, bad.
There's another Brill here. Thought about. I can
Mm,
see myself talking through him.
there's another you. Well, there he goes. He's gone. All right, cool. So again, we're at the nuclear power plant. We spawned a group of clones, and we went back to modules, AI behavior. We're going to go to garrison building instant. This is how you'll garrison all of your buildings. You're going to pick the radius you want. Let's say I want to go the whole power plant. I might go 250. Inside only is always a no for me. I want some outside, some inside. And I do want to fill evenly. If I wanted to just go to the closest building, I just turn fill evenly off, and they would all go into the closest building. But let's say right now I'm initially garrisoning this town, so I would hit yes, and then my guys go and spread out amongst the town. So you kind of see how it just kind of threw them out in random places. If I don't like where I put them, I can drag that one guy and kind of go from there. I would say, go ahead.
This is under Ace AI.
This is under AI behavior.
All the
Okay,
rocks
okay.
are right here.
I would say let's all spawn another group over there by the, what is that, construction building? Okay, construction buildings are obviously massive buildings. There's a couple other buildings in Arma that are like that. That construction building's on the southeastern side, for those of you who are having a hard time finding it. So go to the construction building, go to groups, blue 4, spawn an LS infantry group around the construction building. So this is that point where I would go to garrison building instant, click it on those guys, and I would hit fill evenly no. And those guys would immediately fill into the closest building, which is the construction building. And now we have a pretty decent force in the construction building. Instead of, if we did it the other way, where we had it filling evenly, we'd have like 2 people in the construction building. And, the rest of the people would be across the map, right? Again, you're going to want to make sure you're pressing the garrison building instant one. That is the one you're looking for. And so someone's group was too close to the crane, and their whole group got garrisoned in the crane. So you just got to make sure the building that you want is the building you're standing closest to. So, all right, we'll keep going from there. If you have a chair and you have someone selected, you can make them sit down. There's another way to make people patrol there. There's a search and garrison building. So if I spawned a group close to a building, I could put that on there, and they would walk through that building looking for contacts, and then they would garrison it. There's a search building button, which is probably the least used building, or the least used button ever, which is big sad. But it's very, very good. You get a group up close to that building there, and then you say search building, and they'll go comb through that. They'll breach and clear. A lot of times there's a droid group, close by to a building that people are breaching. I'll have the droid group search that building, and they basically breach right behind those guys, and generally ends in death. You can make someone a suicide bomber. You can make someone surrender. This is not the surrender I would use. I'd go back up to ace captive for surrender. You can ungarrison. So, we just garrisoned our guys here. We can press ungarrison. This doesn't always work perfectly. Sometimes your dudes will just, walk off the 3rd floor because they've been ungarrisoned now and they're too stupid to go find the stairs. You know, it does happen, especially if like someone's on the roof, like any of those guys who like accidentally got sent to the roof. They would obviously of like a a taller building that didn't have stairs to get up there. They're just gonna walk right off the roof. So you kind of got to be careful when you're doing that. But anyway, that's AI behavior. Animals explains itself. Arsenal. This is add a full arsenal. If I'm doing like an AT training, I'll just make everyone an arsenal. That way they can always access themselves and get the stuff that they need. Audio. This is where you can play music and things of that nature. We've got a pretty good music mod, by Spartan. So you take advantage of that. Use that music. Buildings. This is a pretty good one, right? We can go to damage buildings. You can click the nearest building. We can go, let's say full damage, and then you just see that building just got leveled. So you can put that on there and like, put severe damage, and the building will kind of crumble a little bit, and there'll be some damage. You can see like I just put it on the construction building. You can see it looks really weathered now. Probably if it gets shot 1 or 2 times, it'll come down. So anyway, there's that. You can toggle the lamps on for the map, right, or for the area. Oh, that's pretty cool. At night, you can make all the street lights come on the maps that actually have that. Chernarus is one of those maps, so those street lights down the road there would actually come on if you hit the toggle lamps button. All right, forward. Before we go, there's some developmental tools here. If you're building mission files, you might want to use some of those. Excuse me. There's environment change here. We can skip time. We can skip the day if we want it to be. If we want days to be shorter, then we would go, the winter and things of that nature. Nice. Someone leveled half the compound over there. Good stuff. We could create an earthquake. That's pretty cool. There's things that we can do, right? Make it rain with the weather changes, roll in the fog, all that stuff. You're going to want to play with that on your own and do kind of stuff there. I'm encouraging people now to do the time acceleration deal and put it on about 30 or so, maybe on at least like 15. That way, a whole day will pass in your op, and so you get a little bit of night and stuff like that in there. Or if it's night, it'll go to day, stuff like that. Right now, servers are set to real time, so it'll be 24 hours before it's 12:42 on server again. So something to think about. There's some equipment stuff I don't really use. There's fire support. The 230 rocket causes server lag and leaves unexploded ordnance, so I wouldn't use that. But the howitzer is okay if you're just like trying to use it and say it's orbital bombardment. You can go ahead and put that down just so you see what it looks like. There's going to be a piece when we add swap back that's called a proton bomb. It's somewhere in between a 82 mortar and the howitzer, and it actually looks like a Star Wars bomb. That's the one I would encourage you to use. The atomic bomb is a nuke, so please don't do that. And then there'll be gun runs and things like that back and working when we put swap back on server here soon. So that'll be nice. We got JLTS, EMP explosion, which will be interesting when we finally go that route. I don't use anything under objectives. Objects is pretty good. You can attach things to other things. You can create IEDs. You can change the height of stuff. Sorry, I'm yawning. You can hide objects, make things invincible, all things of that, right? So there's that. Players, you can change the side of the player. So like I want this squad to be, let's say independent all of a sudden. And so I click it on them, change side of players. They just now became independent. And so there they go. You can create teleporters here. You can teleport people here as well. So that's all good. Reinforcements, we're all going to do this together, right? So you're going to get anywhere outside of the nuclear factory. You're going to put an LZ down, and then you're going to put an RP down somewhere close to that. Now you have an LZ and an RP. Then you're going to fly half a click away and press the spawn unit button. Again, all this is under reinforcements. You got to have an LZ and an RP down. Go about half a click away and hit spawn units. And we're going to show you how to get, CIS reinforcements now. So you're going to Op4, you're going to use CISK. It's because those are the best HMPs that we have on the server right now, as far as they're not going to absolutely take a dump on you when they fly by, although they may take a small dump on you. I'm going to put mine on, you got HMP gunship. Always good to do RTB and despawn. LZ, you're going to want to set it to whichever one you just made, so go ahead and click that there. Paradrop or land will work. Fast roping might work when we get swapped back, but it doesn't currently work. And then you can, obviously Confederacy independent systems, and then you can pick what kind of droids you want. I always go with squad because 3 of these HMPs are going to get shot down, but the 4th one will make it, so then it is a reinforcement of 9 droids, So that's what I like to do. And then you can set the unit RP there, so the one I created is the one I'll select. And then you can set their behavior when they get there, right? Most of the time I'm dropping mine close to combat, so they're already going to be in combat. So I just normally just put default. Then you press OK, and you'll see the HMP start to fly towards your LZ, and it'll do whatever you told it to do, whether it was drop off or pair drop. And again, you're going to want to make sure at least to click out with these because people will be able to see them spawned. It's always better to be several clicks out and give Valkyrie a chance to maybe shoot them down before they get here. Someone turned on the time acceleration because it's getting dark. But yeah, you can see the AI start to shoot at these guys. Someone used my LZ as their LZ, or they just put theirs really close to mine. So my HMP is mad about landing. But yeah, they'll land, unload, and there you go. Now we're going to have created a mini battle scene here. What is this? Someone got their guys rolling in on a vanilla chopper, so that's interesting. So we'll keep going while this fight ensues around us. Right, respawn. This is how you would create respawns for different factions. Again, if you're gonna hard control something, I would make sure if you thought you might die that you made an Op4 respawn for yourself. Just anywhere on the map or back by our base. Resupplies, we don't use that. That's all Halo stuff. Scenario flow, you can change the side relations. Let's say I want, by default, the independents are hostile to Blue 4, but let's say I want them working together. I can change that there. We can make intel here. So, you hit create or edit intel. You'd put that on the item you wanted the intel to be on, and it would go from there. You can end the scenario here. That's how we do mission complete. Please don't do that right now. And then you can name the scenario and other kind of cool things in there, right? Also, next we got spawn. We can spawn some advanced compositions. We can spawn, submarines and trawlers and all other kinds of nonsense. Mines and explosives are here. If you want a minefield, you click mines and explosives. You go to minefield, you tell it what kind of mines you want. Let's go, Apers mines, why not? And then you can spawn the minefield, right? So I went Apers mines, 200, and then there goes my minefield. And it spawn. You can click the mine density, how many mines you want, and all that stuff. Someone's trying to spawn a submarine on land. That generally doesn't work. If you put it over here in the water, it'll go just fine, just like mine just did. You got the U.S. Freedom, which will not fit in that little pond. You got a lot of other crap. Anyway, onward and forward we go. We're almost done. We'll go to Zeus here. When we go to Zeus, we can add or remove edible objects, which I'll talk to you about that in a second. You can provide hints here, which are the things that show up in the top right-hand corner of your map. That is a hint. You can promote other people to Zeus, which is giving them curator, which is what I just did. You can remote control units, which is the control left click, how you control units, and then you can switch to units, which is apparently the alt left click that Brill was showing us earlier. And then the fantastic lightning bolt is here. If it's nice and stormy, I like to use that sometimes for some added effect because it does look really cool. And it's nice and
It's raining submarines.
But yeah, if it is storming out, I do like to try to use that when I can. You can press Control while you're clicking and spawn or do multiple of anything. So, I do want to do multiple lightning bolts, or I want to spawn multiple units. I can hold down Control and get multiple things spawned. So, anyway, nice electric storm there. So the very last thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to our markers. And I am going to make it day. Oop, that's not the right button. All right, so we're back at our markers now. We're going to do one final thing. You're going to go to groups. You're going to go to empty, groups, empty, and then you're going to find a base or a bunker or something along that lines, whatever you want, and you're going to put it on your map marker. So base, bunker, put it on your map marker.
No.
All right, and so you see a lot of yellow things, right? That's every little individual piece. Let's say there's like porta potties in there. You don't really want the porta potties, so you can delete those. Mine's got a really ugly little blue tint, so I would probably delete that. You just click on it and delete it. You can move some stuff around. I don't like the way it's set up. I can drag this wall system out farther, things of that nature. One thing you always want to do, the first time you set it down is fine. Normally, you just want to like zoom in and look at it real quick, make sure nothing's floating. But if you are to move this at all, especially if the terrain is on, I want to turn this the other direction. I'm going to highlight it all, press shift, and turn it. Probably something is floating now, especially if the terrain's not flat. We're on an airfield, so the terrain's probably okay. But normally, it's not going to be okay. So you're going to want to grab all of it, highlight it, press Alt, drag it up into the sky. Don't let go, and then drag it and try to slam it through the ground as far as you can. That'll get everything actually onto the ground, and nothing will be floating. Nothing's more, immersion breaking than you roll in and one of these H barriers is 5 feet up in the sky, doing some Jedi mind trick on you. So just make sure, that you square that away when you spawn those custom compositions, right? So after you spawn the composition and you have it where you want it, before you put droids in it, you should always go to Modules, Zeus, Add or Remove Editable Objects, and go ahead and remove those objects. That way your computer doesn't have to process them anymore. You handed them off to the server. That'll just help you. Generally, if you have a poo-poo computer, you can't Zeus because your computer is responsible for the upkeep of a lot of things on the server. We're looking into getting a headless client, which will make the server account for all the droids, which will be very nice, and take a load off of us, or at least our computers, those of us who are Zeusing, and should increase server performance. So that is a thought that we're trying to do there. One thing I would encourage you to do with Zeus is just make sure that you get on and you practice it on your own, right? You just got to get on the server like now while nothing's happening and jack around and figure out how to do stuff. I will say, right, so I had this problem. I have to say this at every Zeus training now. If you go ahead and get on your map real quick, you'll be able to see some markers I'm dropping down. I'm dropping down blue markers right now, and I'm creating a battle line. I'm going to drop down some red markers now. And, okay, so like now everyone understands, blue 4 controls to the right of that, op 4 controls to the left, right? I had a dude that I trained, about a year and a half ago, and he literally created a battle line the entirety of the map to show where the actual line was. Please don't do that and rape everyone's frames. All we need you to do is put these little icons on the map. If you want to create a battle line, there it is, right? And then wherever, the guys decide they're going to go through, you can make some fighting there, but you don't need to make fighting 5 clicks out just because that's where the battle line is, right? It's not some old World War II style fighting. We don't need fighting going on the whole way, and it's bad for frames, right? So I just grabbed those off the markers and used dot and square, so pretty simple. Okay, any questions before we go? Beautiful. The last thing I'm going to talk to you about is balancing, right? And you've got to balance your ops to not only the number of players online, but the quality of players online, right? So let's think, I've got 5 dudes online, but they're all, let's say we still had ARC. They're all ARC troopers. Well, those 5 ARC troopers should be able to handle a whole lot more than 5 CRs, right? So the op would look significantly different if I'm running it for 5 CRs versus 5 ARC troopers or 5 NCOs, things of that nature, right? So it depends on who's at your op, and then how many people. If it's 20 people, obviously you put more droids down. Things of that, right? You also got to take into consider MOSs. Now, if they had an AT called guy and decided not to bring AT, then that might just be their fault, right? They should probably have AT. But if they only have one AT guy, I'm not sending more than 2 AATs at him because he doesn't have a AT to take out much more than that, right? So I'm balancing it. I can't send 7 AATs at him if they only have one AT trooper and no Valkyrie, right? So you kind of got to take that into consideration there. And so generally, I like to say in like a major objective, let's say it's a big town or something of that nature, right? One of the main objectives in your ops, I'd say 5 to 8 droids per player. So let's say the 4 of us are playing, we're looking at like maybe 20 droids. And then like B2s, turrets, those things would count double. That would be 2 droids in my eyes. Or, if you've got like specialized droids like Magna Guards or things of that nature, then those would be like 3 droids in my eyes, right? So you got to kind of, the better the droid, the more quote unquote points it takes up. If you kind of look at it like that going forward, just to start off, you'll eventually kind of understand what, look at it as a point system. You have a quote unquote spawn limit for this objective, and don't waste your time and count out every little thing, but think of it, kind of that way. I got 10 dudes here. I can probably put a total of 40 to 50 quote unquote points in this objective. And just kind of work through it that way. Tanks and stuff, 3 points. That kind of thing there. But yeah, that's it from a balancing perspective. I would just tell you the more immersive you can make your ops, the better chance you're going to have of people showing up to them consistently. And I would also say it just takes time to grow your audience, right? The first op that you ever host, you might get 5 people. But if those 5 people really like it, then the next time you host, they've probably talked about you. You might get 10, and then kind of go up from there, right? And just don't be discouraged if in your first couple ops you don't have that many people. It's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. With people who are more well-known Zeuses get more people to show up to their ops. That's just kind of the way it is. I would encourage you to get with a good Zeus and try to do like some platoon ops. That's kind of where you can get your name out there and people can say, oh, that was a lot of fun. And then you're kind of mooching off some other people's success as well. If you're chilling with a good Zeus and you didn't screw the op up, then you can get a little bit of credit for being a good Zeus yourself. And just kind of snowballs from there, right? So just my little tip for you to advance. But we'll take a last call for any questions if anyone's got one. And if not, I will spend 30 seconds finishing up this video real quick and then come back and talk to y'all. So any questions before we go? Perfect. I'll be right back. All right, so those of you watching this for Zeus training, you'll need to get with a Zeus trainer. You can find that information on the roster under auxiliary staff. So get you, in there with a Zeus trainer, and you'll set up a mini op for them, and they'll kind of evaluate to make sure that you were paying attention. They'll ask you to do a couple things in game, and you will knock those out, right? So as long as you can set up, an op correctly, just a nice small one, and do some things that they're asking of you, then you get the Zeus qual, and we'll move on from there, right? So pretty simple, pretty easy. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned a little bit, and if you didn't, then watch it again. All right. See you guys.